An electric car in winter, in cold and snow? Can e-mobility really handle these conditions? We'll show you why an electric car, despite common doubts, can be especially practical in winter and how you can reliably get around. So, what's the deal with EVs in winter? I can tell you there's nothing better. Though there are a few things to get used to and a couple to be aware of to keep things from going wrong in winter. Today I'll walk you through them. Let's go. I've been driving electric cars since 2014 and fought my way through several winters with them, and I can tell you there's nothing cooler than an EV in winter. Though there are some things you need to come to terms with, and that's what we're doing today. I'll give you some tips based on my experience driving an EV through many winters. I'll start by looking at one really big advantage that's also a tip: preconditioning. Here I have an app for my BMW i4. These days most EVs have one, and in the app there will usually be an option to precondition your car. That means I can turn on the heating in the car quite easily when it's parked outside. And while I'm shoveling snow or finishing my breakfast, the car is heating up outdoors and the cabin's already warm. And that's not just pleasant, it's also way easier scraping the windshield, if I even need to do it at all. And this i4 has frameless windows. That means when I open the door, the window has to go down a bit before the door will open. It's prone to freezing shut in winter, so preconditioning helps you make the cabin the right temperature. And then the windows will go down and you don't risk breaking the glass. And if you do all this at a charging station or at a wall box at home if you have one, you just plug in the charging cable and the power used to preheat the car no longer comes from the battery. So instead of reducing your range, the power comes from the grid, making it range neutral. And that's fantastic. So the BMW is warmed up, so let's take it for a spin. I'll turn down the heat a bit so it's not so loud on the mic. That's always annoying. But it's already nice and warm in here. The windscreen's already clear. I just need to turn on the wipers. When I preheat, the rear window heating is also activated, so the snow at the back slides down too. So far, so good. Let's head out, and I'll get to the next really cool thing about EVs, their torque. An electric motor delivers torque instantly. There are no gears to shift. You step on it and it's there right away. In winter, that means you can control the car very precisely with the accelerator, while the car's electronics handle the rest. It's much more finely controlled than a combustion engine, and in situations like this, that helps you pull away more smoothly. Whether it's front, rear, or all-wheel drive, it just puts you in a good mood. You can really fine-tune things. You can use regenerative braking instead of the brakes, drive at a steady pace without rushing, and still make good progress. This car has rear-wheel drive, so you can put your foot down a little. The electronics adapt right away. That's because they can regulate torque so well. It's there instantly, no need to downshift or anything. And that's really great. Some electric cars even have two motors, a lot of them do, with one on the front axle and one on the rear. That basically gives you all-wheel drive. It's relatively easy to do, much easier than in the old days of combustion engines, when Audi, for example, created great systems with its Haldex clutch and a lot of mechanical stuff. Here you just add another electric motor on the front or rear axle. That's pretty quick to do. In a car like this, you're the king of the road. With good snow tires, you'll have few rivals. Just step on it and off you go. But don't be fooled. When it comes to braking, we're all in the same boat. Drive carefully in winter. Don't overestimate your abilities, even if the torque makes you feel like, yeah, I'm doing great. The moment I brake, I'm going to skid just as much as any other car. So, rear-wheel drive with good snow tires lets you drive really well, and that's what I love about EVs. For me, it's not so much about whether they're better or worse for the environment. You could have long discussions about that. Financially, I find it's no more expensive than a combustion engine car. By most calculations, it's actually a lot cheaper. Plus, it just drives better, and that's something you notice more in winter than in summer. Now my third point, consumption. My tip here is to be prepared for changes. We've put 30, almost 40,000 kilometers on this rear-engined i4. Over the whole year, our average consumption is under 20 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. In summer, it's around 16 or 17, and in winter, well over 20. It averages out to about 20 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. When I showed you earlier how I used preconditioning to make the car warm and cozy, that used a lot of power for the heating. I hadn't gone a single kilometer yet, but of course it changes the whole consumption profile. So part of the time, driving around the city, I use over 20 kilowatt-hours and often over 30. On short trips, I've even seen consumption top 40 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. That happens pretty easily because so many things are using power. The heating, even though it's a heat pump, still has a lot to do to warm the whole cabin. At the same time, you can preheat the battery for charging, which I'll come to in a moment, and that also uses power. With all these systems running that wouldn't normally be on, you're simply using more electricity. And when you use preconditioning, you get consumption like this, without even moving a single kilometer. So be prepared for significantly higher consumption and much less range. I'd say an EV loses at least a third of its range in winter. Older models can lose roughly half compared to summer. But with newer models that have heat pumps and other tech, it's usually around a third less. On top of that, the battery is cold, another important tip to keep in mind. If the car's been outside all night, the battery will be ice cold and can't deliver its full performance. So when you accelerate, you won't get the full punch. Older EVs, like my parents' old e-Golf, even had a display showing how fit the battery was and how much performance you could demand at that moment. When it was cold, it wasn't at full power, but on a long drive, the needle would climb. I don't have an indicator like that in this car, but I know it was parked outside in sub-zero temperatures, so the battery is cold and I won't have full performance. Not while driving, not during regenerative braking, and especially not while charging. So for my next tip, let's head to a charging station in winter. Here we're dealing with an effect you really need to watch out for in winter. The car's charging curve changes dramatically because the battery cells are cold, which slows everything down. The battery simply can't take in as much energy. Of course, it still holds the same amount of energy. The 70 kilowatt-hour battery holds the same amount whether it's summer or winter. But everything happens a bit slower, and it can't deliver the performance we're used to in spring, summer, or fall. This car has a peak charging capacity of over 150 kilowatts. But now let's go around and look at this miserable sight at the charging point. With the battery actually at 23%, we only have 33 kilowatts of charging capacity. That means a stop here on a longer holiday trip might not take the planned 20 or 25 minutes, but 30, 40, or even 45. You can optimize a bit by bringing the battery up to temperature first. On longer highway drives, it's already warm, so this isn't an issue. The battery here is truly cold, but I can let the car warm it up. A lot of cars let you precondition the battery so it heats up during the drive, but that uses power, which increases consumption. It's a bit like robbing Peter to pay Paul, but it makes sense on a long trip, and you don't want your charging stop to take too long. Many EVs do this battery preconditioning automatically when you tell your sat-nav where you want to go and the car suggests charging stations. If you say, I want to drive to Cologne, it'll say you need 2, 3, 4, or however many charging stops. And like many EVs, this BMW then preheats the battery at the right time, so you arrive at the station with the battery at the ideal temperature and keep the waiting time as short as possible. But in general, you should expect higher consumption, shorter range, and more charging stops. And those stops will take longer because the car won't charge as fast as you're used to in the summer. And I've got 2 more tips for you that are really important when driving an EV in winter. The first is about the 12-volt battery. You heard that right. Every electric car has a 12-volt battery. Just like the old VW Beetle, EVs have one too. Yet many EV drivers either don't know that or don't care. But here in this car, under the fancy plastic cover, is a completely normal 12-volt battery. And here in the engine compartment, you can see the terminal if you ever need to give a jump or charge the battery. Here's the 12-volt terminal, and under the grating you can see the built-in 12-volt battery. Of course, a 12-volt battery will eventually give up the ghost. Especially in an older EV, the battery is already a few years old. Then you run into the same problem they had with the VW Beetle. In winter, it wouldn't start because the 12-volt battery had gone on the fritz. So it's worth checking it from time to time. You can use a trickle charger now and then to keep the battery healthy. Just like in a combustion engine, it won't fully charge if you're only driving short distances. And my second important tip, keep a little winter gear kit in your car. I always have a couple pairs of gloves in the trunk, because when you end up at an outdoor charging station handling wet cables and plugs, it's not very pleasant. So I keep some gloves in the trunk I can put on to keep my hands dry and clean. And secondly, especially in weather like this, I always keep several safety vests in the car. I tuck them in the door pockets so they're easy to reach. We're a family of 4, so there can be 2, 3, or 4 of us in the car. And even if you've done nothing wrong, if a truck turns in front of you and traffic comes to a halt, you can put on a reflective vest if you need to get out of the car. For safety's sake, I always keep these on board. Make sure you do too. Driving an EV in winter is really pleasant. I can only recommend it. It handles well, the preconditioning is excellent, and you don't need to worry about getting stuck in long traffic jams. You're sitting in a warm, dry car with the heat on, while drivers in combustion engine cars probably have to turn off their engines so they're not running for no reason. Of course, the battery can run out, but with sensible planning, it's just like a gas-powered car. You could also get stuck in traffic with no fuel, and then you wouldn't have any heating. So I don't see it as an advantage or disadvantage. In general, my advice is drive carefully and defensively. You might get there 5 or 10 minutes later, but you'll arrive safely. Do you have any questions or tips of your own? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more Rev.